This was an emailed question. Steve says, who is the 144,000 mentioned in Revelation?
Well, when you open up the book of Revelation, you're talking about Revelation chapter 7, and as you go through the passage, it identifies them. And it says it's 12,000 from each one of those tribes that are mentioned in that passage. And so I'll read it to you. It says, I heard the number of those who were sealed, 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. And so whenever I'm going through and teaching on this passage, I go through and I define terms. You guys know who Israel is. Israel is not the nation Israel in the sense of the country, the geographic place, although that is something that's called Israel. Israel is Jacob. Jacob is a guy in the Old Testament, the book of Genesis, who had his name changed by God from Jacob to Israel. And so the children of Israel are his 12 sons. He had 12 sons. And they became the children of Israel. Those 12 sons had sons and daughters, and they became, by extension, the children of Israel. And so the children of Israel are the people who come from the 12 tribes that are the 12 sons of Jacob. And so that's who he's talking about. And so he says, of the tribe of Judah, that was one of the sons of Jacob. 12,000 were sealed. Reuben, Gad, Asher, Naphtali, Manasseh, Simeon, Levi, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin are all mentioned in that passage as being the tribes that the 144,000 are from. And so I believe that there are 12,000 people from each one of those tribes. When you look over to Revelation chapter 14, it says in verse 1, Then I looked, and behold, a lamb standing on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his father's names written on their foreheads. And it goes on to identify these guys in verse 4, and it says, These are the ones who were not defiled with women, for they are virgins. These are the ones who follow the Lamb wherever he goes. These were redeemed from among men, being firstfruits to God and to the Lamb. And so the Bible identifies these guys as 144,000, 12,000 from each of those 12 tribes, who are young men who are virgins. And so when somebody tells me that they're one of the 144,000, famously, the Jehovah's Witnesses believe that they've got the 144,000 in their little group. And when somebody tells me that they're one of the 144,000, I ask them, what tribe are you from? Are you Jewish? Are you from one of the tribes of Israel? And they're not. Because what people do is they go through and they try to make it a spiritual number, and they try to make it a spiritual people. I don't know how God could be any more clear than when he goes through and lists, the fact that these are men who have not had sex, who are from each one of these tribes. And so
even if you're going to allegorize that, I mean, that's not a way you would do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Specific.
Yeah.
I mean, anyway.
And so that's who the 144,000 are. What's interesting in that passage in Revelation 7 is that immediately afterwards, after these guys are presented, you have this great multitude of people, it says, from all nations. That's the word ethnos in Greek. It's the word for Gentiles. Tribes, peoples, and tongues standing before the throne and before the Lamb. And it looks like the 144,000 have something to do with that. And so you may have heard of that the 144,000 are like 144,000 little Jewish Billy Grahams running around. And that's where you get that concept from, that it looks like these guys are connected with the salvation of the Gentiles that takes place during the tribulation period. And so I don't see a reason to question that. I think there's probably some real truth to that. So, yeah.
Okay.